Youth isn't just about age, it's a mindset. And today, that mindset is louder, bolder than ever. Look around, whether it's protests in Tehran, debates in Washington, or viral moments on TikTok, young voices are making waves. But here's the thing, this isn't the first time young people have changed the world. From fighting apartheid to launching revolutions with a single hashtag, their influence is undeniable. So, what makes youth such a powerful force for change? And why does their energy shake up those in power? Stay with me as we explore the roots, the present, and what's next for youth activism. You might just see it in a whole new light. Let's unravel this thread. Let's talk about how youth activism has been shaking the world for decades, way before hashtag rules the internet. First up, the US Civil Rights Movement. It's 1960 and a group of college students is being done told where they can and cannot sit just because of their skin color. They formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, led by young leaders like John Lewis and Diane Nash. Their first move? Sit-ins at segregated lunch counters. Imagine walking into a diner knowing you'll face insults, threats, even violence just for sitting down. But they kept coming back, day after day, making America confront its ugly truth. These weren't politicians or celebrities, they were students, changing history one sit-in at a time. Let's jump to Paris in May 1968, where a student protest over dorm rules escalated into nationwide movement. Within weeks, millions of students, workers, and even farmers joined the strikes. The streets were packed with chants, barricades, and tear gas. While immediate political change did not follow, the protest sparked a global wave of cultural revolution that still inspires activism today. Now to South Africa during apartheid. For decades, black South Africans were treated as second-class citizens in their own country. Enter the young heroes of Soweto uprisings in 1976. Thousands of students, many just teenagers, marched against government's order to teach classes in Afrikaans, a language of oppression. The peaceful protest turned into tragedy when police opened fire, killing hundreds. But their courage ignited a global outcry and helped bring an end to apartheid. So, what connects these stories? Passion, courage, innovation. Youth movements have always been about shaking things up, forcing the world to face uncomfortable truths. Whether sitting at a lunch counter, building barricades in Paris, or marching through Soweto, young people have shown they are not just the future, they are the now. Let's talk about what young people are doing today to change the world. Take the Black Lives Matter movement. Young activists have been at the forefront, organizing protests, raising awareness, and demanding change. After George Floyd's incident in 2020, millions of people, many of them young, took to the streets worldwide. On social media, TikTok and Instagram exploded with messages calling for justice. In fact, 70% of US teens expressed support for BLM, proving just how powerful youth voices can be. Now look at #EndSARS in Nigeria. In 2020, Nigerian youth said, "Enough is enough" to police brutality by Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS. They launched peaceful protests, both online and in streets, using hashtags to amplify their message globally. Within weeks, the government announced SARS would be disbanded, though the fight for true freedom continues. It was a masterclass in using digital tools for real-world change. And how about the young woman in Iran after the death of Mahsa Amini? They risked everything, taking to streets, burning their hijabs, and defying oppressive laws. These protests, led by students and young women, sparked a global conversation about women's rights and freedom. Their courage lit a fire the world couldn't ignore. In the US, Gen Z is reshaping elections. They have shown up in record numbers in both 2020 and 2024 elections. But they are not just voting. They're organizing rallies, running phone banks, and using TikTok to break down policies and spotlight candidates. Some even call them the most politically engaged generation in decades. And speaking of engagement, remember the pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong? It was young people leading the charge, waving umbrellas and demanding freedom even while facing arrests and crackdowns. Their determination sparked movement around the world. But here's the thing, none of this happened without digital organization. Social media has become the ultimate megaphone for activism. Remember when BTS fans hijacked Trump rally RSVPs? That wasn't just trolling, it was a flex of youth power online. Those viral campaigns are turning into real-world actions, from climate strikes to fundraising for causes. Today's youth are loud, bold, and unstoppable. They're not waiting for permission to change the world. They're already doing it. Let's talk about some of the hurdles young activists are facing today. First up, being taken seriously. Older generations often brush off youth movements as idealistic or inexperienced. It's like when your parents say, "That's cute, but let the adults handle it." That kind of dismissal can be discouraging, especially when young people are out here pushing for real, meaningful change. Then there's access, or lack of it. Many youth-led initiatives struggle to gain political influence or secure funding. It's like trying to start a band without instruments or a stage. Without resources, making a big impact is tough. In countries with strict governments, the stakes are even higher. Activists risk arrests, censorship, or worse. After Mahsa Amini's death, young women in Iran led to protests demanding basic human rights, knowing full well the dangers they faced. Their courage, even under such harsh conditions, is beyond inspiring. But even within activist movements, things aren't always smooth. Social media can be both a blessing and a curse. Some activists get labeled as performative, posting for clout rather than action. Remember Blackout Tuesday after George Floyd's death? Though the intention was good, some felt it came off as more about appearing supportive than taking real action. There's also the challenge of staying united. Sometimes youth movements struggle with internal disagreements or unclear goals, like a band where everyone wants to play a different song. That can kill momentum fast. But here's the thing, despite all these hurdles, young activists keep pushing forward. Their passion, creativity, and sheer determination prove that even when the odds are stacked against them, change is possible. Youth activism isn't just about making noise, it's about driving real, meaningful change. Take policy shifts, for example. After the tragic Parkland school shooting in 2018, student-turned-activists took to the NRA. Groups like March for Our Lives mobilized millions, pushing for stricter gun laws. Their efforts led to real policy changes in states like Florida. Imagine being a teenager and influencing actual laws. That's next-level adulting. In Germany, youth-led climate strikes inspired by Greta Thunberg pressured the government into passing one of Europe's most ambitious climate protection laws. Their message was loud and clear. If you won't protect our future, we will. The law now commits Germany into cutting carbon emissions by at least 65% by 2030. But are these changes for better or worse? Only time will tell. But it's not just about laws. Young people are reshaping culture too. They're changing how we talk about race, gender, and the environment. Remember the viral climate marches? Those weren't just protests. They were declarations that the planet's survival matters more than corporate profits. And when it comes to elections, young voters are game changers. In the 2020 US elections, youth turnout hit 50%. The highest in decades. Their votes were crucial in swinging key battleground states. Political analysts are now tracking TikTok trends. Yes, TikTok, to predict voter behavior. What's inspiring is that this movement isn't limited to just one country or cause. From climate policies in Europe to social justice reforms in the US, young activists are proving they are not just the future, they're already here, and the world is paying attention. The future of youth in politics feels like the start of a superhero origin story. You can just tell the next chapter is going to be epic. Let's talk about where we are headed. Technology. That's the ultimate power move. Social media isn't just for memes anymore. It's a full-blown political stage. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram are where viral moments turn into full-blown movements. Gen Z isn't just voting, they're stepping into leadership roles. By 2030, they'll be a third of global workforce and a massive chunk of voters. Imagine lawmakers who actually grew up with Wi-Fi, who get climate change memes and know the difference between a Finsta and a Mainsta. That's not just progress, it's a revolution in the making. But let's be real, it's not all smooth sailing. Keeping people engaged in today's hyper-distracted world? That's no small feat. When the next viral video is just a scroll away, turning online outreach into real-world action is the ultimate challenge. The bottom line? The future of youth in politics isn't just bright, it's blinding. With tech, passion, and good dose of defiance, this generation is set to shake up the world, and honestly, I can't wait to see how it unfolds. As we wrap this up, here's something to think about. The world doesn't change because people wait for permission. It changes because someone dares to dream, take action, and refuses to back down. Looking at all the movements we have explored, one thing's clear. Youth activism isn't just a chapter in history. It's a driving force behind the future. But here's the best part. You don't have to be marching in streets or going viral on TikTok to make a difference. Small actions add up. Start a conversation, volunteer for a cause, or even just educate yourself and others. Every voice matters, and yours could be the one that sparks the next something big. So what's your next move? Drop your thoughts in the comments because the next big change could start with you. And if this video spoke to you, hit that share button, subscribe to this thread, and let's keep unraveling the stories that shape our world. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and never underestimate the power of your voice.